for Thought, the station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Friday, November the 17th, 2023. This is program number 1097 of the Lunchroom, and I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, in addition to FM radio, 101.1 FM radio, you can visit our website. It is rcistlucia.com, rcistlucia.com. You can download all our old shows on that platform, and you can listen to us live on YouTube. Just search for Radio Caribbean International on YouTube, and of course, be sure to subscribe to that page. Now, some birthday greetings for today going out to Mr. Sherman Robinson. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we do hope that you're having a splendid birthday celebration. Hope you eat all the cake you can. And it's also the birthday of Mr. Ezra Moise. Happy birthday to you as well, sir. And we do hope that you're having a wonderful day. Mr. Tony Wilkinson is celebrating his birthday as well today. Happy birthday to you. And we do wish you the very best for the day and the entire weekend. And also birthday greetings going out to Miss Whitney Denise. Happy birthday to you, and wishing you an absolutely fantastic birthday. And it's also the birthday of South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. He turns 71 today, and quite a number of interesting individuals like Danny DeVito and Martin Scorsese and even RuPaul are celebrating their birthdays today. Now, a bit of history. In the year 1558, Elizabeth I, at the age of 25, ascended to the English throne upon the death of her half-sister, Queen Mary. In the year 1800, the United States Congress held its first session in Washington, D.C., in an incomplete Capitol building. 1831 on this day saw Ecuador and Venezuela separating from Greater Colombia. 1855 on this day, David Livingstone became the first European to see what eventually became called the Victoria Falls in what is now on the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe. And in the year 1869, the Suez Canal opened in Egypt, linking the Mediterranean and the Red Seas. In 1922, the last Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, Mehmed VI, was expelled to the island of Malta on a British warship. And in 1970 on this day, Douglas Engelbart received the patent for the first computer mouse. We now move on to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Flag Street in Dufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program, final program for this week, for Friday, of course, as we head into the weekend. Now, the continued back and forth of political diatribe, maybe you might want to call it, or debate, continues to rage on what is apparently, I don't know, for some very reason, has been an issue that quite a number of people seem to be very much interested in, and have been making quite a lot of mileage from. And it's based on a statement that had been made by the Grenada's Prime Minister, Honorable Dickon Mitchell, and it related to effectively ensuring, if you want to paraphrase what he may have said, or make sense of what he said, that ensuring that the individuals who you elect have a certain level of national sensitivity or sensitivity to the country's culture, the country's heritage, the identity of the country. Now, it has been construed in other ways, partly, I suppose, because there was a recent statement made by the Member of Parliament for Castries Central about the entire matter of whether an individual should in fact be born in a country to in fact make them eligible to lead that country ostensibly as the head of state or head of government, of course, depending on the nature of the political system that that country may have. Yesterday, we did mention that of the 190 plus countries in the world, a minority, in fact, have that as a requirement for, in fact, being the leader of a country. In fact, based on a list that is available online, it puts it somewhere at about 22 countries actually having that provision, and of course, very famously that of the United States of America. And of course, we gave some context to the rationale and the thinking, perhaps, of the persons who crafted the United States Constitution back in the late 1700s, what they may have been thinking at that time. But effectively, nearly about roughly 12%, or 11-12% of the world's constitutions actually have that kind of provision in it. Now, interestingly enough, as I mentioned, the matter of constitutional reform has been on the cards for quite some time, and it was taken up as something to look into regarding that of the head of state of St. Lucia, and it was considered within that report, which in fact had been submitted. I think I mentioned a different date. I think I said, well, anyways, regardless of what I said yesterday, it was actually published on March of 2011. That is in fact the date when that report was submitted. And that was after a considerable level of consultation around the island. And of course, commissioners had been appointed from a plethora of sources, including political parties, civil society, and so on. And it did speak to, on page 118, on the matter regarding the head of state. And in fact, it reads as follows. Just to read from page 118, head of state of St. Lucia. This is again coming from the recommendations of that Constitutional Reform Commission report headed by former Justice Susie Dovey of blessed memory. And it says, the Commission considered Chapters 2, the Governor General, and 4, the Executive of the St. Lucia Constitution jointly, as some of the topics were closely related. There was consensus on a submission that the office of the Governor General should be abolished in favor of a ceremonial president. With this change, the monarchical system will be replaced. Method of appointment. The Commission supported a submission that proposed a system in which the nation, through its representatives in Parliament, elects the head of state on the basis of indirect election as opposed to direct election by the people. The Commission agreed that the ceremonial president should be elected at a joint sitting of Parliament by a simple majority vote to replace the Governor General, and that the Deputy President should be elected in like manner at the same time. The Commission agreed with the submission that a non-partisan person should be appointed as head of state, and that the such an appointee should be scrutinized by both chambers of Parliament after a duly submitted recommendation by the Prime Minister following consultation with the Leader of the Opposition. And it then speaks to a bit about the issue of qualification for that position. And it says there was consensus that the head of state should be a St. Lucian by birth, who must be between the ages of 35 and 75 years of age. The individual must have a minimum residency of 10 years immediately preceding his or her appointment. The person who is elected to hold the office of President of St. Lucia should not have held office in a political party or should not have been a candidate for elective politics within 10 years of his or her election as president. And it also goes on to speak about other matters regarding that, including tenure, and indicated that the president should only hold office no more than 2 consecutive 7-year terms under this new constitutional reform recommendation. And of course, this is not the Prime Minister, as I'm mentioning, and of course we can come to that maybe at a later time. But the desire there coming out of that recommendation from the Constitutional Reform Commission is that in the case of the head of state, that individual should be non-partisan to the extent that it should not be somebody who's recently been involved or has been a candidate for elective politics. So if in fact you had put yourself up to run a particular seat and for argument's sake you lost, you cannot become the president come the next parliamentary cycle when a president is elected, and certainly you would not be able to serve as president for or be elected or be eligible to be elected as president for another 10 years after that election. So the intent there, of course, is to separate the politics from the individual who would have been holding this position. In very many countries, that is the desire, of course, that the head of state is apolitical, and that's what you would see in many monarchical systems, although that has not always been the case. Even in the United Kingdom, you would find in the past, monarchs, kings, and queens sometimes got quite involved in parliamentary matters and governance and determining how things are. Of course, you have absolute monarchies, like, as we mentioned, in the case of Saudi Arabia and a few others around the world where that still exists. Those instances, the monarch, it's hereditary, and this individual has full reign in making decisions about the country. Of course, most of the world has democratically elected heads of state, and in very many instances, this individual is not just a ceremonial office holder, but also an executive office holder, the chief executive of the country, effectively. And that, of course, is what obtains in the United States of America. It is what obtains in most of Latin America, in most countries in Africa. In fact, that is what obtains as well. And in many countries in Europe also that exists. But in Europe, I think for the most part, you still have a lot of parliamentary systems in place. Of course, a number of constitutional monarchies, but even when you have presidents coming in, quite often these are presidents that don't actually control directly the executive functions of government. And so many countries like Sweden, for instance, Finland, where you have a president. That president is more of a ceremonial figure, and in many of the Baltic countries, those countries, largely, again, they have prime ministers who are heads of the government, but Germany is a similar kind of situation, a more ceremonial head of state. And this is, in fact, what was being recommended by the Constitutional Reform Commission of St. Lucia in terms of the head of state. Now, of course, coming to the matter of the statement that had been made by Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell of Grenada, really and truly, his focus was not really about this issue. It was actually more about the matter pertaining to ensuring that you have an individual who identifies and understands the country that he or she is being called upon to lead, and made some references to his own family and saying that he could have actually lived over in Canada. He chose not to, even though he has family over there still, and his brother lives there. And making the point, though, that there should be an appreciation of CARICOM, an appreciation of Caribbeanness, an appreciation of our own heritage as a Caribbean people, as a Caribbean civilization. And that should certainly be part of a consideration towards electing individuals to hold the seat or to hold the position of Prime Minister. It has been taken in lots of other contexts at this time. Now, why is that important? Because we can see quite often, and we've seen it in the past, where sometimes leaders do not necessarily appreciate certain aspects of development. And this is not to say that it's on one side or the other. It is across the board. We've seen in the past, unfortunately, where our understanding of issues of heritage, understanding of issues of development, issues of sustainable development, issues of environment are not very well appreciated. And this is something that we've seen over in recent past, and they become very, very emotive issues. And we've also seen, of course, governments having to sort of try to figure out this balancing act in terms of what is suitable development, what is development that does not create exclaves, that does not create communities that are removed from the whole, development that is in fact excluding the citizenry from enjoying the very same things that we boast about and we say so proudly, this beautiful island, and we speak of our beaches and our waters, and we speak of our rivers, and we speak of all these wonderful treasures, our pitors and other landmarks, and we quite often seem to be in this quagmire where these very same things, these that are attracting people to our island, are also attracting development that sometimes keeps people out and from having access to these very same things. And this is the challenge that we have. Now, we certainly do, therefore, have to have leaders who are sensitive to an island's culture, to an island's heritage, to the thinking of the people and their values as well. And it is very easy, as we've seen in the past, to have situations where leaders will be influenced by external forces and external interests to effectively impose potentially laws and regulations that may be coming from outside of the country. And that's where the motivation largely may lie. And it may not necessarily lie with the motivations of the people in that country, who may have very different values and may want to see a different form of development and a different type of society existing. And this matter, in fact, goes sometimes into the issue of culture and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, and cultural changes and cultural shifts. And it can become quite controversial on so many different fronts. And many countries, for instance, around the world are still battling with issues of gender identity right now. That's a massive issue around many countries. We're seeing countries dealing with issues of sexuality and issues of sexual orientation of individuals. And that is a major issue, which is, of course, somewhat aligned to the gender debate that is going on. You see countries having different attitudes towards the use of drugs. That can be a very divisive matter around the countries. The issue of religion and the shifts in religion and how much of a role religion should play in a society, and you see that coming up. And of course, you have quite often political parties that may claim, at least, that they are pro a particular religion or some sort of religious values over another. Some of them, for instance, like in Germany, you have a party that's called Christian Democrats, right? And they tend to be the leaning conservative party in Germany. And of course, within that context, you see issues of religion and values coming forward as well. And so you will get that, and we've seen it in our politics. Every leader, every country, every leader wants to show that how pious they are or how very much they are pro protecting certain values. And that becomes very, very controversial sometimes, depending on the case. And of course, the matter of protecting of the assets of the country, that has been very, very much the same. And so within this context, certainly when we speak about culture and the role of culture, the role of civil society in shaping national policy, it is certainly something that we should encourage, and we should ensure in a democratic society that these institutions don't have to worry about being slighted or attacked or maligned when they, in fact, hold certain views or they put forward certain tenets which they want to ensure that the country values. So we have many players in civil society, whether it may be the mothers and fathers groups, whether it might be the PTAs in schools or the National Youth Council and various representative bodies representing various demographic groups, the senior citizens groups. You've got groups that will be looking at promoting certain types of culture, the folk research culture, for instance, the Archaeological and Historical Society, the St. Lucia National Trust. You have academic institutions who have a voice as well and should bring forward rational and logical approach to the debate as well, and perhaps as well a more scientific approach to the conversation at the national level. And in fact, in some constitutions around the world, some of these civil society institutions actually have a seat in Parliament. I think in the case of the Irish constitution, there is a provision that allows for some level of appointment of representatives from academia to actually play a role at the level of the level of Parliament. And so we certainly have to see that there is an important part for them to be able to say and speak out freely, regardless of the government in power, regardless of the actions, all right, that may be taken by these organizations, to let their voices be heard. Now, one such organization I realize has become a bit of a whipping boy, and of course, full disclosure, I'm also a part of that organization, the St. Lucia National Trust. Just earlier on today, I was listening to a talk show host sort of accusing the organization of not speaking out on the GPH matter, and almost suggested that they were speaking out before, and why are they not speaking out on this matter? As if, number one, GPH and DSH somehow, or GPH and the Dolphin Park were somehow the same in terms of the elements within what was being proposed. Right now, and this is of course where we see a lot of conflating of issues. This is where we see a lot of targeting, because there is this hope, therefore, that you can malign and besmirch. I mean, and you'll get it on other sides too. You will quite often perhaps hear members of the St. Lucia Labour Party or persons who are pro-St. Lucia Labour Party asking, well, why isn't the Chamber of Commerce speaking out on this matter more? This is affecting the country. And we get this back and forth quite often, wondering why institutions are not speaking out and not saying stuff. And the important issue there is to ensure that these institutions can, in fact, operate, and they can, in fact, have their voice and not have to face any form of retribution or retaliation when they, in fact, do just that. But coming back again to the matter of culture and the matter of culture in our politics, it is certainly something that we have to be looking at and to see where our leaders stand on so very any issues. And so therefore, before we actually elect individuals, we actually know, what do they feel about the issue of the environment? What do they feel about the issue of education? What do they feel about the issue of language? What do they feel about issues of cultural heritage? And actually feel them out on many different issues, because your member of parliament is being elected. You are electing your member of parliament to effectively represent you on a number of different issues. And so understanding their positions on issues is very, very important in selecting and electing our representatives, and we should understand their thinking. That's our dish of the day. Now, when we come back, we're actually due already for our weather report, so we will then head across to take that in and then come back to take in some calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Did all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Lance Road in Castries, Bosses Grosile, and Flax Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Make your home merry and bright with Island Style's massive Christmas sale. Our wide range of porcelain and ceramic tiles are on sale up to 50% off. And that's not all. Save up to 15% off. Bathrooms with bundle and save. The more you buy, the more you save on gorgeous bathroom vanities, bathtubs, faucets, shower glass, toilets, and more. Plus, contractors and tilers are in for a treat with our special discounts on tiling tools and accessories. Sale on now at all locations: Castries, Rodney Bay, and Beaufort. Or call 450-452 or 453-TILE. It's time to deck the halls, deck the walls, or even deck the deck with huge Christmas savings only at Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
On the 1.1, it's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bar. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east and east-southeast near 21 miles per hour or 33 kilometers per hour with occasional gusts. The weather fair to partly cloudy skies. The weather fair to partly cloudy and hazy skies with a chance of brief showers. And there is an advisory in here which reads, persons with respiratory ailments and dust allergies are advised to take necessary precautions. Also, small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to above normal seas and reduced visibility. The forecast for the Lesser Antilles is fair to partly cloudy and hazy skies with a few showers. And the tropical weather outlook. The Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate moderate to brisk easterly winds and above normal seas across the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours. A plume of Saharan dust will cause a reduction in visibility and air quality across the Eastern Caribbean region over the next few days. And this was the weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bar.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Make your home merry and bright with Island Style's massive Christmas sale. Our wide range of porcelain and ceramic tiles are on sale up to 50% off. And that's not all. Save up to 15% off. Bathrooms with bundle and save. The more you buy, the more you save. On gorgeous bathroom vanities, bathtubs, faucets, shower glass, toilets, and more. Plus, contractors and tilers are in for a treat with our special discounts on tiling tools and accessories. Sale on now at all locations: Castries, Rodney Bay, and Viewfort. Or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. It's time to deck the halls, deck the walls, or even deck the deck with huge Christmas savings only at Island Style.
And welcome back to our program here at Radio Caribbean International. It's about 25 minutes before the hour of 2 o'clock. And, of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so, it is 452-3046. And you can also call in via WhatsApp. That is 724-0008. Let's go to the phone lines at this time to take in our first call for the day. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Okay, Mr. George, how are you today?
Very good, caller. How are you?
Your family?
Very good, thank you.
Okay, I heard the last part of what you were saying there in context of our resources and so on. What were you really, the point you were making, that we should question our reps and so on?
Well, I was saying that we should really get a sense of their values as to how they see many different issues that are going to be confronting themselves when they get into Parliament, when they get into government. And we should know
what's
how...
the mechanism for doing that?
Well, that's a very, very good question. There is no mechanism per se, because we don't have debates.
I like how you say nonchalantly, we should do this and we should do that. How do we get that?
There you go. And there should therefore be opportunity, whether it's through a town hall meeting, whether it's through debates, whether it's...
meetings are now kumbaya meetings.
Well, then, that's very good. But then I'm saying that it is...
very good?
No. It's not very good for it to be kumbaya. I'm just saying, in other words, yes, you're very correct about that.
Yes.
But we certainly do need those kind of opportunities to get our
come up with
candidates.
Or what? How? Where? How are we going to break that? Because that has been the problem for Lord knows, when, because you're just talking about things that plaguing us years and years and years ago. The inability to make this so-called democracy work in a way that people could participate right throughout, other than just on election day. Your words?
No, you're right, correct. And
we're not encapsulating that. We're not getting, the template. We're not getting, it's like I come with a manifesto, promise this ABC and sometimes the manifesto not even in line with what is right good for the people. You know,
True,
well,
true.
sometimes it's what you feel could get you elected, because that's what it's all about, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And I think too,
getting the victory, protecting it.
Coming back to the issue,
Not getting the victory, trying to get it back. That's what it is, you know. That's what it is, you know. And the rest is irrelevant, you know.
but and I think as well, the media certainly has had a very, very important part to play in this.
Yeah, but what media go playing part when the media has been captured by one side or the other?
Well, we have to have that role.
We have to have.
Yes.
I like how you.
Yeah, because
we have to have.
it is.
Oh, you know, we have to have. Check out what you're saying. We must question them. No mechanism. We have to have. You have no media association.
There you go.
You know, and it's like, you know, you're trying to give people hope in a hopeless situation, and that, you know, and
Well, Cole, if it was a hopeless situation, then we should all pack our bags and.
No.
No, I mean, come on. So,
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when we're going to start offering solutions.
But caller, the solutions are there, you know.
Yeah,
the solutions
they are there. So offer, you know, because you're one of the bright fellas around, you know. You are one of the people.
But you're making it seem that we should not talk about the solutions. We should not ask for the solutions. We should not advocate for those things to happen.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. But that is, and you know, caller, that is part of the challenge too. That we expect somebody else to go and say it. We expect somebody else to be the voice.
There are people who've been doing it, because all these things you talk about are people. There are people who have gone beyond the call of duty and have the passion in these areas, you know, and have stood up at some point or the other. But when they look around, it's just like they were lone voices in the wilderness.
There you go.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that when we're going to get the people who maybe really have the heirs, you know, because certain people privileged to have the heirs, you know, of the people who govern we. You realize that, eh?
But caller, yes, but then when we get to the issue of media association, for instance, that has to be the act of the actors themselves within the media to agree to say, look, this is necessary. We have a role to play. And so therefore, let us try to organize, number one, ourselves, and two, also ensure that there is that avenue to achieve this aspect in our democracy that we need, which is so that we can say, hey,
but who's going to take the bull by the horns?
Well,
doesn't it have to start somewhere?
Of course it has to start somewhere.
Yeah, so somebody in the media, that's what the point I'm making all the time, you know. Somebody in the media has to try something and see how far they could get. But everybody is being captured one way or the other, and the perception of the public now is that when they say he interested in making his party stay there. This one there, interested in making the opposition get back. You know, and the people killing the spirit of the people, killing people's spirits, you know, and then we bandy these things around. We must ensure that you know, we have this. We enforce. We get our representatives to commit to this and that. You know, wow, where? Oh. Even though you get them to give you a listening ear, you know, before getting into, you know, office or whatever, and they pretend probably they sympathetic to whatever cause you're talking about. There's nothing that binds them to whatever. There's no binding mechanism, you know.
Well, that's a separate matter now. That is what you say in terms of, well, how do you hold them to account? And I do take your point that, I mean, again, it comes to that whole issue of constitutional reform. That's where there's so many things that are tied to that issue about not being able to hold people to account, who is, in fact, with the transparency mechanisms, the accountability mechanisms within our democracy are weak. We've known this for a very long time. We've all accepted it.
Even take a case like what's going on in the case of the gentleman they can't get, on board this, the heritage thing in Suffolk. Okay? And
Sorry, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
yeah, the gentleman that the building the houses, the buildings in Suffolk.
Oh, at the Peters you're talking about?
Right.
Okay, all right, yes. Ansley Voyne, yes.
And you were making the point that all natural heritage sites are not necessarily owned by the government. They're owned by private people. Some of them, some of them, the private people who buy into whatever the aspirations of the people.
Right.
And the government.
Right.
The government. Okay.
Right.
Right. But this particular you have laws that protect the public interest. If you can't say this is your private land and a river running through it, and people that river have to source water for the community and play hardball and say that is my land. If government wants to build a road, you can't say that's my land. You can't pass there unless you pay me how much. They have laws that govern these things in the public interest. But are the politicians themselves ready and willing and feel strong enough to take because this issue shouldn't be, to me, that this guy is supposed to be playing hardball with us on a thing like natural heritage, world heritage, because if genuinely we think it's in the public interest, the government is there to protect the public interest, Calix George. And you're telling me there are no mechanisms, no laws, no regulations in the public interest to deal with these things up to a day like today? So how we go about that now? People have to come out and march, and whatever media have to, get an organization to do that.
Well, I never said that there are no laws. One.
No. I don't say what you said. I'm just asking the question. Aren't they?
Yeah, and of course, but
from
the
my experience, they have all the land policy, the natural resource, land and water policy, which land and water inextricably linked in the interest of the public. You have to give way. You can't come with no private thing and say, well, that is my land, and your land undermining and underdeveloping the public. I mean, come on. So what's the sense of government?
Under the
That's
physical,
continue.
we have a physical planning act that.
You see all these acts and all these things.
Well, law, if you want a physical planning law.
Anyway, I'll hang up and listen.
All right, sure. Thanks very much, caller. And we do have a physical planning law, and that has been around since I think 2002 or thereabouts, and it requires for it to really work properly a national physical plan. It requires physical plans which demarcate, delineate, say what can happen here and there, and zones and what have you. But the problem is we have actually, up to a day like today, never really had a national physical plan for the island. And it is one of these critical instruments that is necessary for good and proper planning and environmental management and protection of our assets. And it's something that we have to and should be calling for, because this is where we end up with lots of different conflicts And everybody believes that, I can do this here and I can do that there. But the reality is that you should really have a plan in place to give people clarity as to the extent to which they can develop, what they can do in various areas. That is part of the problem. Now, in the case of the PTOS management area, there, in fact, has been some effective legislation, you could say, under the Act, that very same Act, because it was declared an environmental protection area back in, I think, 2003 or thereabouts. So it, in fact, was a gazetted, defined area, and there was, in fact, a plan as per that gazetting. So there is, in fact, some protections with respect to that specific area in question. So, but sometimes the way we operate is as if you do something 20 years ago and it's as if it never happened. But that's the part of the challenge that we have, no doubt about it. Now, before we end the program, I do want to also extend some condolences to the families of Monsignor Theophilus Joseph. He of course, passed very recently, I think just yesterday, is it, over in New York, I believe. And of course, he is a St. Lucian priest. He was born, I think, coming from Choiseul, and certainly many individuals would have known his contribution throughout the island, and certainly even in the cathedral parish where he stayed for a number of years. And so certainly we would like to remember him and, of course, keep him in our prayers. Also, condolences to the family of Mr. Patrick Compton, who also passed quite recently, just yesterday, I believe, yesterday morning in Trinidad. And, of course, a gentleman who actually, interestingly enough, we share a birthday, that of January the 8th, and certainly made a contribution in his own right, especially, of course, in the area of insurance. And a gentleman who's had a great love of life and certainly had lots of stories to tell. And one would have thought that he certainly would have has got a lot of close calls as well in the past, and was even almost considered to have 9 lives. But of course, unfortunately, his time came and he has gone to his maker. And also we want to send some condolences to the family of Helen Florton of Grand Riviere, and so certainly her family at this time, who is mourning her loss, a sudden passing. And so certainly we send our commiserations to them as well. On the matter of hair, we spoke about that just very briefly yesterday, and about that new draft policy which had been put forward by the Ministry of Education. And I just wanted to very quickly share that, and perhaps because, in fact, it was out for public comment on draft hair policy guidelines for St. Lucian students. And it stated that the purpose of this policy is to promote individuality, self-expression, and respect for diversity within the school community without any discriminatory practices or bias. The scope is that this policy applies to all students enrolled in public and private schools in St. Lucia, irrespective of their gender, race, ethnicity, religion, or cultural background. And the guidelines that have been set out are as follows. Non-discrimination, 3.1. All students have the right to express their individuality, including hairstyle choices, without facing discrimination, prejudice, or harassment. The school shall not impose any restrictive grooming policies solely based on gender. 3.2. Inclusivity. We aim to create an inclusive and accepting environment that values the unique identities and backgrounds of all students. 3.3, length, style, and maintenance. While boys are allowed to grow their hair, the school encourages proper hair maintenance and hygiene. Hair that goes beyond neck length should be tied back at all times. Hair that surpasses 2 inches in height or length for boys must be cornrowed or plaited at all times. Female students are allowed to wear braid extensions not surpassing 12 inches in length. All braids must be tied together and not let loose. Weaves, wigs, and hair coloring are not allowed. In exceptional cases, approval may be granted by the Chief Education Officer or school principal. And I assume in those exceptional cases, you may have, for medical reasons, those being required. It continues. Students are expected to keep their hair clean, neatly groomed, and styled in a manner that does not obstruct the vision or view of others or become a safety hazard. Elaborate hair designs are not allowed. Hair accessories should be in compliance with the rules of the school. 3.4, health and safety. Long hair must be tied back at all times, especially during physical activities, to ensure the safety of the students. Hair accessories such as hairbands must be discreet and non-distracting. 3.5, cultural and religious considerations. The school will be sensitive to cultural and religious considerations regarding hairstyles. Subject to verification by parents, students with cultural or religious reasons for keeping their hair long will be accommodated without any hesitation. 3.6, discipline and bullying. The school will take appropriate action against any form of bullying, teasing, or harassment related to a student's hair. Then it goes on to speak to implementation in Section 4. To ensure the successful implementation of this policy, the following steps will be taken. 4.1, policy communication. The policy will be communicated to all students, parents, teachers, auxiliary staff, and other stakeholders through school newsletters, official communication channels, and educational institutions' websites. 4.2, regular review. The policy will be subject to periodic review to assess its effectiveness and to make any necessary improvements. And in 5, by adopting this policy, the Department of Education, Science, Technology, and Vocational Training reaffirms its commitment to fostering an inclusive and respectful learning environment and that values diversity and supports the rights of all students to express their individuality. And as I mentioned, this is a draft of a hair policy guideline for St. Lucian students, which has been prepared for consideration, and was prepared by the Ministry of Education, Sustainable Development, Innovation, Science and Technology, and Vocational Training. And of course, part of the call has been because of issues that have come up, including legal issues on the matter. In fact, I do believe that, funnily enough, today there was a judgment in the matter regarding the St. Mary's College and a claim that had been brought forward by a parent regarding his son's hair. And it appears, from what I understand, that the school authority, in fact, seems to have gained favor of the judge in this matter. So it'll be very interesting to see how, of course, this continues to pan out. But let's hope that, of course, we are ensuring that, in fairness to everybody, that everybody will have the opportunity, as has been expressed within that legislation, to, in fact, express themselves, but to do so in a reasonable manner. Of course, we are facing quite a number of challenges in our school system, especially with respect to discipline. and unfortunately, we've seen a rise in activity in terms of violence. Unfortunately, the first term got off to a very bloody start, with lots of fights being recorded and witnessed in many various schools as well as on the streets, and very strange copycat gang activity being expressed by some of our students. And so certainly we all need to play our part in terms of monitoring students' behavior on the streets. And sometimes you'll see activity that is not appropriate of students. And certainly in the case of violent activity, we've got to be very, very mindful of that. Also, quite recently, another incident occurred in the school in the Castries South area, where apparently individuals came on the school campus with what could certainly have been a dangerous weapon. So the matter of school security is certainly one that we have lamented over the years, and issues of robberies, schools being burglared, and lots of other issues there. But certainly it is something to be mindful of. Unfortunately, as well, it appeared that there was an issue of the lacing of candy with drugs, and according to the St. Lucia Times, that has been circulating in some schools. And the story reads as follows. St. Lucia's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sharon Belmar George, has sounded the alarm that drug-laced candy is circulating in the school system here. She spoke at a St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association SLMDA award ceremony at the Bay Gardens Hotel on Friday. Belmar George said the manufacture of psychoactive substances and novel preparation of traditional drugs needs to be under the public health and law enforcement radar as an emerging threat to health and security. She called a consultation about 2 months ago with the new Substance Abuse Advisory Council Secretariat Director. A lot of what we did not know is happening within the school system, Belmar George disclosed. Belmar George told the award ceremony she was surprised to see some of the products confiscated from school children. Quote, I thought the drugs in St. Lucia were cannabis. I did not know we had reached the U.S. level of all of those psychoactive substances. I didn't know it was here. Maybe I was very naive, the chief medical officer stated. Quote, but there are a lot of those psychoactive substances which are in the developed world that are really here, Belmar George revealed. Quote, we have already met with the Ministry of Education. We are collaborating with them on that. It's the products that look like regular gummies and candies, the Skittles, and I mean, if I pick up the pack, I wouldn't know, she explained. However, Belmar George told the audience the package has a little cannabis leaf in one corner. Quote, these products are here, and they are being used and shared within our school system, and the police have been confiscating them from school children, the senior health ministry official noted. She said the SAACS, the Substance Abuse Advisory Council Secretariat Director, was assessing the problem, and a campaign targeting the main focus areas would follow. Quote, it looks like regular candy, and they are laced with a whole set of different substances, Belmar George warned. And that story coming from the St. Lucia Times. Of course, certainly a matter that we have to be mindful of. And again, the role of parents in monitoring what goes into those school bags and those lunch kits is very important as well. And unfortunately, we do, one would think that, of course, persons would be responsible about these issues, but we've seen the issue of sale of alcohol, we've seen the issue of sale of tobacco, and of course any type of these substances. It is certainly something that needs to be very, very closely monitored, and a clear policy and way forward, in fact, developed. But we'll try to squeeze in one final call before we end the program this afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate?
Colleagues. Tell me something, colleagues. The CMO spoke, but she didn't give any indication as to where those packets of candies are coming. Is it coming from the commercial sector, the legal commercial sector?
No, she did not actually state the source as to how these students are actually sourcing them. But, caller, there's so many different conduits at this point. There's so many different routes that it could very well be that it may be that, there are people, I'm sure, who are engaged in producing these various things, these gummy bears that have these things in them. And so it may very well be coming from shops. I don't know for sure. I'm not sure if these things are being imported.
What is... Sandwiches are real... Why sandwiches are real funny, weird place. But she's saying about the police confiscated stuff.
Yes.
And that is what is baffling me there, the police confiscated stuff.
Well, I could only assume...
If you confiscate stuff from school children, and you see what is happening, it's well-labeled, well-packaged stuff. She said that some of them have this marijuana leaf in the corner of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
After all, I would have expected at least the police would be calling in the Ministry of Education and having a dialogue as to this is happening, calling the Ministry of Commerce, this is happening, this is what, and we know that is in there.
Well, I don't know that the police have not done that, because what it is that we're hearing about this through a statement that was being made by the CMO on this matter. So it may be that the police have actually been taking some action already regarding some of the tracing of where this is coming from, and is this something that is being pushed by a few people, that kind of thing. So we don't know precisely these details, but I think maybe what you're saying is that maybe the police should in fact give some kind of sense as to what is going on, and maybe as well the Ministry of Education.
But yes, but so many people, I am surprised. She, the CMO, is surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And I'm saying, why would she be surprised by when she's saying that? And all indications, the way she spoke, I'm getting the indication that this was not even actually communicated, like by way of some official means, but via her Ministry of Health, and via the Ministry of Education, and then everybody is. That's the way I'm interpreting. I'm getting her the way she said this, she released this, and I'm saying we have to do better than that. She's naive about it. I would say me too, But this is a well organized thing, and
well, I don't know that it's well organized. That's what I'm saying, caller. I don't know the extent to how much is happening.
No, when I'm saying well organized, the way they present it, it's well packaged.
No, that's different. No, I mean that is because more than likely this probably can be sourced. Let's put it this way, caller. This industry, marijuana industry, is a huge global industry now. So there are people who are probably producing these things in the United States, in Canada, wherever else. They're being purchased maybe through legitimate stores and whatnot for consumption by adults. But who knows how, through what channels these things are coming from. They are getting into St. Lucia somehow, whether through barrels, however, and they somehow are getting into the hands of children. Now, as to whether this is widespread, as to whether this is something that was somebody in particular that was doing it and it has been caught, I don't know. But at least we're hearing about it, I would say, and let's hope, as she has in fact said, that there is going to be some kind of a strategy with respect to the Substance Abuse Council.
I'm hearing you very,
police.
very low, but I would have really I would really like to talk to you. But what you're doing there is very good. I like the way you run your show, and you may not believe it, but your show is the sort of show that would go a long way in. Well, God forbid, I'm hoping that you will still be there, and people like you or others could continue running the show in that sort of same vein, because it is these sort of shows that would throw the seed out there and would help St. Lucia change that system that we have here. that system of that so-called democracy thing, with and right now it's between the red and the yellow.
Right.
You know, which I hate. I dislike it. I dislike it with a passion. That has messed up this country. It continues to mess up this country, you know. And so it is important that we start getting the ideas out there that there is a better way to run this country, to do things. We don't need no two-party. We could have a group of people, they each, as you say, throw their ideas, their philosophies, what they believe in, and then they put their names in the ring, and then we vote for who we support to get in that house. So it is just one group of people inside of there. One group. I don't want people to look at it as like a communist thing. It's not a communist thing. What it does, the advantages to that, as far as I'm seeing, is that it creates an environment where people know where everybody's standing, and it creates an environment where nobody feels that they don't have that license in which for them to oppose something which maybe the head is bringing forth or some other minister is bringing forth. So they're free to oppose it, and so at the end of the day, everybody votes. The majority will go through, the idea will go through, and that will be the law or whatever legislation to run whatever in the country. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
I think I do, caller.
That two-side thing, it creates too much of a combative kind of an environment. And I believe that a lot creates that whole crime environment that we have there because it's too combative. And it creates a lot of immaturity, not only in St. Lucia, all over the world, right there in the United States, a lot of immaturity. So even though I see another side have something good, but if I support it, it gives his side the strength where he will get voted back in, so I cannot do that, so I have to oppose it. At the end of the day, that doesn't work for the country. It does not work. So if I know all of us in the same grouping, one grouping inside there, I could oppose whatever, but you now supposed to try and convince me that idea which I'm coming with is good, and then I'm trying to convince you to let us go along with this. At the end of the day, you will convince me or you may not convince me, but it's still my right or my duty to openly say in the house that I don't like it because of so and so and so, and not feel muzzled or I don't have that license to oppose it because I have to make my side look good.
Thanks very much for that contribution, caller. Very much appreciate. I get you completely, but unfortunately, we'll have to continue at another time.
I want people to
because
see. The maturity must come in, and that will help us to go forward better.
Thank you so very much, caller, for that contribution. Very important one indeed to end the program on for the week, and we thank you, of course, and all those who've been calling in and making their contributions. We'll be back again next week, God willing, for another week of this program, The Lunchroom, on Radio Caribbean International. Have a good one.